Hello, Bolt fam, and welcome to another episode of ChargersCast. I'm your host, Kirk Brewer, and ChargersCast is a podcast about everything about our beloved Los Angeles, formerly San Diego Chargers. ChargersCast is a podcast by fans, for fans, so I really appreciate you being here, hanging out with me, chatting about our Chargers. This week, a little bit different is number one, as you notice, I'm wearing some headphones. Don't normally do that, but trying to improve the audio quality of the podcast. So hopefully that's working and we're getting a little bit better audio quality. And number two, you'll notice this week I'm flying solo. Brennan Isham from Chargers District had a scheduling conflict, and he was unable to join me this week. So this week, you just got me, and hopefully that's just fine. We've got a lot to talk about this week, a lot of good stuff to talk about this week. And so let's go ahead and get started. First and foremost, as you guys know who are regulars to the podcast, got to have an ice cold beverage to keep the vocal cords lubricated. I'm a mouth breather, and my vocal cords get dried out if I talk for an extended period of time, which is not good for the podcast. So this week, I've got my normal go-to Modelo Especial lager, and that should keep me lubricated for the 45, 50, 60 minutes that we're going to be on the pod. All right. We got a lot to talk about, a lot of good stuff to talk about. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be talking about the Week 10 victory against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This was a home game in SOFI in primetime on Sunday Night Football. And then we are going to transition over to Week 11. A road game against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. So this will be an early start time on Sunday. So let's get into this Steelers game. As I said, it was a victory, which games against the Steelers typically are hard-fought victories. The entire NFC North, and in particular the Ravens and the Steelers, they're known for being physical teams, and that is something that our coach, Jim Harbaugh, and our offensive coordinator in particular, G-Row, are striving to make the Chargers, which is a physical, in-the-trenches, dominant team. Now, we're not quite there. We were on our way as we were building for this season, and then we took some significant injuries on our offensive line, in particular Rashawn Slater and now Joe Walt. So our offensive line, it's a patchwork. Justin's been getting hit a ton. He's been getting sacked a ton. And if it wasn't for Justin being as good as he is, both physically and mentally, quite frankly, the Chargers season wouldn't be nearly as successful as it has been to date. But Justin Herbert is that guy, and we do have some guys who are serviceable on the offensive line. And between those two things, and include G-Row calling plays that are helping the offensive line to protect Justin. He can't do it all the time, but he's doing it more with 12 and 13 personnel with our big boys like Matt Locke and Tucker Fisk. That is helping out as well. So we got the W against Pittsburgh Steelers. As we anticipated, it was going to be a very physical game, and it was. But we came out of this thing 25-10, and the reality is this game should have been 28-3. Cameron Dicker doinked a field goal that he would normally make 99 times out of 100, which cost us 3 points. And then the defense, who's been playing lights out the last 3 games, allowed a garbage time touchdown to the Steelers so that they got that 7 points. Otherwise, this easily could have been a 28-3 victory. Quite frankly, the Chargers dominated both sides of the ball. Started out a little bit slow, but Khalil Mack kind of kicked things off as far as the domination goes with a safety against Aaron Rodgers in the first quarter, which was awesome. So some stats here. Our defense did not allow a touchdown to the Steelers until garbage time. All they allowed was 1 field goal, which was awesome. Time of possession, the Chargers had 37 and a half minutes to the Steelers 22 and a half minutes. And you'll hear me say repeatedly, if you tune into the podcast regularly, time of possession is an important factor. It's not an end-all be-all, just like turnovers and third down efficiency, but it's an important one. Because if your offense is on the field, that means the opposing team's offense is on the bench. And it's very hard for their offense to score if they're sitting over on the bench. And then on top of that, they get frustrated and they get cold. Even if it's warm weather, they get cold in the sense that they're not moving around physically, right, from the pregame warm-ups. And so it's a win-win-win when our offense can stay on the field, dominate time of possession, be ball control, and super important is end those drives with points. And ideally, not just 3 points, but 7 points. That is the most ideal scenario. Ball control offense, hold the ball substantially longer than your opponent, and at the end of those long drives, score touchdowns. It just is demoralizing as you can get for a team. And we did pretty well with that in this game. We had 37 and a half minutes to 22 and a half minutes. Total yards, not a massive disparity, but 314 yards for the Chargers, 221 for the Steelers. Rushing wise, 115 for the Chargers, only 73 for the Steelers. Kamani Vidal had another strong showing, putting up 95 yards and a touchdown. And on the passing side of things, 200 yards for the Chargers and 148 yards for the Steelers. And stand out in the passing game, besides Justin doing Justin stuff, was Ladd McConkey had a couple critical catches, especially that last one late in the game that Justin fit into a window about the width of a piece of paper. And so Ladd ended up with 107 yards and 1 touch. First downs, 18 for the Chargers, 11 for the Steelers. Total plays, 69 for the Chargers, 50 for the Steelers. Penalties was interesting. We actually had 8 to their 4. Fortunately for us, none of those penalties were super critical or came at critical times that negated a very good play, like a turnover or a scoring play to Ladd or that dime to Ladd late in the game. And then last but not least, statistical wise is 0 turnovers for the Bolts and 3 turnovers for the Steelers. So all of that, not hugely dominant, but dominant nonetheless in pretty much every category. And that equated to a very complete win on the part of the Chargers. On the offense side of the ball, we were super efficient. Still allowed too much pressure on Justin, which is getting week in and week out. It's getting kind of worrisome. He had a particular tackle / sack where the defender, again, fell on his legs, fell on his ankles. Justin got up a little gimpy, ended up going to the bench. getting kind of checked out a little bit. I don't think he went in the blue tent, just over on the bench, and then got his ankle retaped, a little bit more than retaped. But he came back in, was no worse for wear. But that's getting old. We really need to cut those contacts, cut those pressures, cut those sacks, cut those hits down. If Justin's going to make it through the season and into the playoffs, and hopefully deep into the playoffs. Yes, he's young, he's big, he's strong, but there's only so much punishment you can take throughout the course of a season. And we need to do a little bit better job of that. And I know they're trying. Okay, that's not an indictment of G. Rowe and all those guys that are battling on the offensive line, but we do need to do a better job. This week, the starting offensive line was Austin Deculus at left tackle, Zion Johnson at his normal position at left guard, Bose at center. Mackay was back. It's great to have him back. He didn't have a great game, didn't have a horrible game, but it's great to have him back. He needs to get in a rhythm, and you just can't do that if you're in and out of the lineup. So Mackay was back at right guard. And then Pip, because Bobby Hart was out this week, Pip ended up starting at right tackle over our newly traded offensive tackle, Trevor Penning, who is very familiar. I think he played all of last season at right tackle. And so he could have gone in there, but Pipkin played there instead. Penning did not see any action this week, which is not totally surprising, but a little bit. I figured as a former first-round pick, he wouldn't have too much difficulty walking in on day one and being better than 80% of the guys that we have in our offensive line room. So we'll continue to keep an eye on Mr. Penning and see what kind of action he gets. But the O-line battled. Giro called some good plays, like I said, some 12 and 13 personnel, getting those big-bodied pseudo tight ends in there to help out with both the running and the passing game, helping out the tackles on passing downs to help protect Justin. And it was pretty doggone effective, both in the passing game and in the running game. Like I said, Kamani had a really good game at 95 yards and a touch. Had some really nice runs showing his capability. He doesn't just run up the back of one of his offensive linemen. He's got good vision, finds the holes, typically falls forward, even on a bad run play. He's fallen forward for 1, 2, or 3 yards. And on good run plays, he's easily gashing them for anywhere from 7, 8 yards to 11, 12 yards. So, like what I'm seeing out of Kamani, and I would be shocked if even when O'Marion comes back, Kamani's not the new 1-2 punch with O'Marion. So keep up the good work, Kamani. We need you right now, and that should translate into more playing time when O'Marion gets back as well. And also on offense, like I said, Ladd had a very productive day. Keenan, well, let's talk about QJ first. QJ had a couple good plays. OG wasn't playing, so not a whole lot went to any tight ends. And then, let's talk a little bit about Keenan. Keenan, up until the very end of the game, up until garbage time, he only had one reception. I suspect, because Keenan's usually Mr. Automatic, that the Steelers knew that this game was important to Keenan as far as getting those 2 receptions to pass Antonio Gates. So they were clamping down on him a little bit. He ended up getting 1 reception in the normal course of play to tie Antonio Gates, but he needed 1 more reception to pass Antonio. And instead of waiting till next week with a road game against the Chargers, they designed a play. Actually, it was Keenan. It was pretty cool. It was Keenan who designed the play to get him a nice, easy reception at the end of the game. so that he could break the record at home with Antonio in attendance, with his family in attendance, and with the Chargers fans in attendance. And so Keenan ended up getting his 2 receptions and becoming, which is amazing to me, being a Chargers fan for 40 plus years and seeing all of the amazing receivers that have come through the Chargers organization. It's amazing to me that Keenan is the all-time leading receptions leader of the Chargers. My goodness, time has flown, and between Philip and Justin, the number of balls Keenan has caught is amazing, and it's a testament to his ability to get open. You know, he's never been the deep ball, long ball, speed guy, but his route running is impeccable, and his ability to get open, and his ability to be quarterback friendly to both Philip and Justin, it's a testament to Keenan. And so he is now officially the all-time receptions leader for the Chargers. Still got 7 games to play, so he's going to put up easily a couple more dozen catches to really set that record, set that bar way up there. And then, you know, right now he only signed a 1-year contract, but I'm not going to be shocked. Now, I'm not going to be shocked either way, to be honest with you. But I'm not going to be shocked if they re-sign him to another 1-year contract at the end of the season. He's still got the juice, and he's still capable. Wouldn't be completely shocked if they didn't, because they've got these young bucks that they also want to see come up through the system. So right now we shouldn't worry about that. We got a lot of football left to play, but that will be an interesting thing to keep our eye on in the off season. Is Keenan coming back for another season with the Bolts and continue to be Justin's safety blanket on 3rd and Keenan downs. Regarding the defense in this game, again, they controlled the line of scrimmage, both against run and the pass. And quite frankly, all 3 levels of our defense were really playing complementary ball between the D-line, the linebackers, and the DBs. The D-line was really holding their own, fighting in the trenches, clogging things up, making Aaron Rodgers very uncomfortable. I'm not sure if we blitzed a single time in this game. I think overwhelmingly we were rushing 4 guys. Having Denzel Perryman back has been huge. He had several huge, just textbook linebacker tackles against the running back, just filling the hole and stopping the running back dead in his tracks in the hole. And that's always been Denzel. You know, he's the thumper, he's the hammer. And so it's nice to have him back and healthy and filling that role the way he's capable of playing. And then our DBs, again, you know, it's complementary football with the line as far as keeping tight coverage early when Aaron's trying to get the ball out quick and fast to avoid our rush. And when the ball is in the air, playing the ball, not playing the receiver. Nico Reed had a textbook pass defense that veteran DBs that have been in the league for 10 years, a lot of them don't play the ball the way Nico played this ball. It was textbook, getting his head around the last minute when he saw the receiver getting ready to bring the ball in, spotted the ball, and swatted it away. Cam Hart, by the way, Tarheeb's still out. Hopefully we'll get him back this week. Cam Hart had a couple really good pass defenses, especially that back shoulder that Aaron threw to the big boy, number 4, DK Metcalf, there in the right corner of the end zone. And our boy, what's his name, Williams, that we brought in as a free agent. He got a pick six that glanced off of one of Aaron's younger receiver's hands. I mean, literally just clanked off his hands. And fortunately, Williams was right in the right spot to grab it and turn it over and give our offense the ball in really good field position. So all levels of the defense were playing good, dominant football, complementary football with one another. We got good pressure on Aaron, kept him off balance. Didn't hit him a ton, but we hit him enough. Didn't get a ton of sacks. We got 3, but it was clearly enough at his age and his, he's lost a step. Let's admit it. He's in his early 40s. He's lost a step, and the defense was able to capitalize on that. I mean, heck, we only allowed 221 yards, and of that, what was it, 73 of it? 73 of it was rushing. So hats off to the defense, hats off to Jesse Minter. It obviously helps getting Dayon healthy again, even though I don't think he's missed any games. Clearly at the beginning of the season, he wasn't healthy. He was battling an illness. Getting our boy Denzel back, huge. And the D-line holding their own, getting K-Mac back, even though he's playing kind of one-handed. I'd take a one-handed K-Mac over most edge rushers any day of the week. And our DBs, they're playing together. That's probably the best way to put it, is they're playing together. And Derwin is doing the Derwin stuff. The DBs and the safeties are allowing Derwin to roam around, get close to the line of scrimmage, be around the ball. So hats off to Jesse, calling good game, getting the players refocused on their own job, not trying to do anybody else's job, and everybody playing complementary football. And it's shown in these last 3 games. 3 takeaways, 2 of them were on defense, and one of them was on special teams with a muffed punt that was beautiful. It's nice to see the special teams playing a lot better. We talked about Dicker missing a field goal, but my goodness, he didn't miss it. He doinked it. Yes, it was a miss, but at least he hit it. I want to say it was a 48-yarder, if I'm not mistaken. So something, super capable of making. Is just one of those things. That's why you play the games. That's why they're human beings and they're not robots. Nothing's guaranteed, but Cameron Dicker is about as close to guaranteed as you're going to get within 50 yards. And by the way, prior to that, he had hit a 59-yarder, 59-yarder, and set a franchise record, and he nailed it. So we trust Cam. He's going to miss him from time to time. Fortunately, this time, it did not cost us the game. No major injuries. OG, like I said, he came out early in the game. He bumped knees with a Steeler defender and was out the rest of the game, and that was early in the game. He was out the rest of the game, had an MRI on Monday, and it turns out he's just got a bruised quad. When they replayed it, I looked at it, and I'm like, man, I've done that. I'm sure a lot of people have. And so I wasn't overly concerned like he was going to have torn a tendon or anything like that. It looked more like it was either going to be a muscle bruise or a bone bruise, and it turns out to be a muscle bruise on his quad, and he's going to be day-to-day. So he's a young kid, 23, 24 years old. Those young guys heal up pretty quick, especially with the professional therapy that they get with these teams. And so I wouldn't be shocked that we see him in Jacksonville taking reps and starting and the whole bit. But right now, OG is day to day. Tarheeb was still out for this game. I understand he was supposed to be practicing today. Today is Thursday, by the way. Thursday the 12th. So I understand Tarheeb was practicing. I also understand Tony Jefferson was practicing as well. And was it Disley? There's one other player as well. So we might be getting back a few more troops getting healthy. And then after the Jacksonville game, we are in a bye in week 12. So that might be coming at an ideal time for the Bolts. That's pretty much all I've got for you regarding the Chargers game against the Steelers. The only other thing I'll say about it was after the game, these last couple days, it's been interesting to listen to the NFL talking heads and some Pittsburgh fans as well on social media. It's interesting because the whole topic is how poorly the Steelers played. And I'm like, hey, there were two teams on the field that day, and the Chargers actually had something to do with why the Steelers didn't play very well. It wasn't like the Chargers are doormats. Yeah, we're banged up like a lot of teams are, but we've got quality players across the board, offense, defense, and special teams. And we had a little something to do with the Steelers not playing optimum football. And that starts in the trenches with Jim Harbaugh's weapons in the trenches, both offense and defense. And in no small way with Justin Herbert, despite the punishment that he's taking, the hits he's taking, having to get rid of the ball quicker, the things that Justin is capable of doing to keep defenses off balance. And so I think it's kind of comical. It's a little bit insulting as well, to be honest with you, to hear all of this talk about, how horrible the Steelers were, and very few, I don't say nobody, but very few are sitting there going, the Chargers played a really solid, dominant game, and a lot of what the Chargers did was a direct result that caused the Steelers to not play well. Period. You can't present it any other way, and to try and do it is doing injustice to both teams, to the Chargers and the Steelers. The Steelers don't suck. They've been leading the division from the gate. Now they've been falling back here these last few weeks, but the Chargers had a lot to do with dominating that game. It wasn't like they were a doormat and the Steelers just came in and stunk it up. The Chargers dominated them in all facets of the game. So hats off to the Bolts, hats off to the players, hats off to Harbaugh, Mentor, Giro, everybody involved. Super solid win. Anybody who's been a Chargers fan for any period of time knows these games against the Steelers, and they go back decades. I mean, the Steelers were the team we had to beat to get to the Super Bowl. Yeah, Super Bowl 29 in the 94 season. The Super Bowl was in 95, but the 94 season. I mean, the Steelers in these games, they're classics. And a lot of times they're in prime time and they're battles. And I think the Steelers have probably gotten the best of us over the years, but it's not a completely lopsided win-loss record. And I didn't look that up before the pod, but I suspect it's fairly close over the years, despite the Steelers being a much more dominant playoff and obviously Super Bowl champion team. So hats off to our Bolts. Felt really, really good to get another primetime win. and move to 7-3. This was a hugely important win. If we had lost that game and fell to 6-4, we're essentially, not quite, but we're essentially tied with the Chiefs. We've got the tiebreaker, and we would have had one more win because they've been on their bye. We haven't had our bye yet, but we would fall 2 games essentially behind the Donkeys. And we don't want that. We want to stay right on their tail. We don't want to be more than 1 game behind them. So when they stumble, and they will stumble, they are not that good on offense. Their defense is right up there with the best of them this season. Vance Josephs is calling crazy aggressive physical play, and they're responding and dominating. But we got them already. We've got the first game head to head, and as long as we can keep them within striking distance, the last game of the season is Chargers Broncos. Now, I don't suspect that game is going to be us needing to win it to catch up and pass them because we got the head-to-head. I suspect that game will have meaning because we'll either be tied with them record-wise, which means we have the head-to-head, or we're 1 game ahead of them, and they need to beat us to tie us, and then the head-to-head will be even. And so it's going to be interesting as we get through these last 7 games of the season. So hold on to your hats. It could get really exciting. And with that, let's roll into week 11. Chat a little bit about this Jaguars game. If you guys didn't already know it, the Chargers are the team that is traveling the most miles this season of all 32 NFL teams. And I want to say the second team with the most miles, it's another West Coast team. It might be the Niners. And they're pretty close to us, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 miles difference. It started for us with a home game that's in Brazil, right? So that massively contributed to it. But the other thing that's contributing to it is we have a significant number of East Coast games. And so we're flying east a lot and playing in that early time slot this season, which historically is not ideal. West Coast teams flying east and playing early, the statistics show far less beneficial than an East Coast team flying west and playing in a later time slot than they're used to. And I think it just has to do with body clocks and, focus and things like that. But Harbaugh's done a really good job of keeping our guys focused and not having that become an excuse or an issue for us. So we are flying to Jacksonville. We will be taking on Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars in Florida. It's an important game for us because we need to keep pace with the Donkeys. We need to keep them within our sights because, like I said, the 7-game win streak that they're on, I don't want to call it smoke and mirrors, but there's definitely been a lot of bounces that have gone their way. They've gotten quite a few lucky wins, like that 33-point fourth quarter against the Giants, that I don't think they'll be able to maintain that all the way to the finish line. And so we need to keep them in striking distance. And so it's very important, especially because this is also an AFC game. So it's very important that we go to Jacksonville and we take care of business. Again, can't take any team in the NFL lightly. And the Jaguars, they've got talent. They've got talent on their team. So we need to go in there. This is a business trip, and we need to take care of business. Now, for some players, definitely for some of us fans, I suspect there might be a little bit of a revenge factor in this game. I believe this is the first time the Chargers are going to be playing the Jags since the Staley playoff collapse. I know it's been a while. I know that's old news, but if you're like me, that one stung. That one stung hard. Staley should have been fired on the spot. I think we all agree on that. They should have never let him back on the team plane. They should have made him fly home on his own dime, because they should have fired him on the spot. They didn't. They let him stick around for the next season. But that game left a bitter taste in many of our mouths, and I suspect a lot of the players' mouths, including Justin. Okay, that was Justin's first playoff game, and a lot of people talk about Justin not being him because of his playoff record. And so I suspect, there's going to be some players that got a little bit of a chip that are like, we're going to go in there and we're going to take care of business. So I hope that's the case. Regarding the Jags, let's see. Defensively, they're 23rd overall. Strong against the run, weak against the pass. And so I think that should set up well for us. We definitely want to continue running the ball and keeping a balanced offense, but we know what Justin and his receiving weapons are capable of. So I think that suits us well as far as our offense against their defense. And then their offense is 19th overall. They're 19th against the pass, or 19th in passing offense, and 14th in rushing offense. And it feels right to me. I believe the strength of their team is the running back, ETN. And so for us, I think from our defense against their offense, first and foremost, is control the line of scrimmage, control their running game, i.e. ETN, and make Trevor Lawrence beat us with his arm through the air. I would love that to end up being the case, where it's Trevor Lawrence against our edge rushers and D-line and his receivers against our safeties and DBs. I would take that matchup and think we'll win that 8 or 9 times out of 10. So that's how I see it playing out. If it plays into our strategy, and I love our offense against their defense, especially Justin and his receivers, especially if we've got OG and he's playing. I don't know who they're going to stop, because our receivers are great and OG is great. We may even have Will Dissly back, which adds just another little wild card, because everybody knows he's a great blocker, but he can catch a couple of those key passes. And then, of course, letting Justin be Justin, preferably early in the game, with his legs. When he flashes a couple runs early in the game, that just puts defenses on notice. You have to also watch Herbert and his ability to run, because he can dagger the defense and just completely deflate them when they think they've got us. And next thing you know, Justin escapes the pocket for a first down. So last but not least, just wanted to mention it because it's worth noting that just before the trade deadline, the Raiders traded their number one receiver, Jacoby Myers, to the Jaguars. So, and I believe last week was his first week with the team, and he ended up being the receiving leader. And so we will see Mr. Jacoby Myers this weekend in Jacksonville. And I think we all know he's a quality receiver. He's going to get his. And so a little bit of a reunion, if you will, where our DBs are going to be going up against Jacoby this weekend. So just wanted to mention that. Keep an eye on it. It's a little side light of the game that as fans keep an eye out for. So hopefully our DBs shut him down completely. But I suspect he'll get at least a few receptions. He is a quality receiver. So let's go over game predictions. It's that time of the podcast. I'm sorry Brennan is not here with me, but we'll go over last week's predictions. And then without Brennan here, I'll just give my prediction for the Jaguars game. So last week against the Steelers, Brennan predicted the Chargers would get the win. Oh, that's right. He predicted we'd get the win at 24-21. And I had us, this is before he even said what his prediction was. I had already, hours before that, had picked my prediction at 23-21. And so we both had it being not a super low scoring game, kind of a mid scoring game, and a tight game, basically within a field goal. And as we know, the Chargers won 25-10. It wasn't even that close. It easily should have been 25-3, but really should have been 28-3. So I would say nobody got that other than obviously we got the win, right? Thank goodness. Chargers needed that W, and it's beautiful to see them at 7-3. And everything we want to gain this season without Rashawn, without Joe Alt, everything is still in front of us. And don't discount the Harbaugh factor, the Justin factor, the Giro factor, and the Jesse Mentor factor. Don't underestimate that. Everything we still wanted to achieve this season before even we had Rashawn go down is still right in front of us. We're going to have to fight for it. We're going to have to work for it, but it's right in front of us. So my prediction is the Chargers are going to fly back east, play the Jaguars tough. The Jaguars are not going to be able to handle the physicality that the Chargers are going to bring on both sides of the ball. And the Chargers are going to walk out with a W, 34-17. So the Chargers are going to lap them. They'll get theirs. They'll get some points. They're more than capable. And, Chargers aren't perfect. There will be a couple plays, a series here, a series there, where the Jags get theirs. But at the end of the day, I see the Bolts walking out, putting at least 30 on the board, and doubling up the Jaguars. So 34-17 is my prediction. All right, folks, that is it for another episode of ChargersCast. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, talking Chargers football, which is probably my favorite thing to do. Would love to get more comments and questions from you guys. So don't be bashful. Feel free to go in the comment section below and leave a comment or a question. Also, you can catch me on Instagram at ChargersCast. Feel free to hit me up there anytime. Love to hear from you as well. We will be back next week to go over the Jaguars game and see where we sit after that game as far as our standings in the AFC West in particular, and within the AFC playoff picture, and kind of how the roster's looking as we head into the Week 12 bye week, which honestly, I don't know if it could come at a better time. I think it's excellent timing for the Chargers to get as healthy as they possibly can for the stretch run. So we'll be back next week, talk about the Jacksonville Jaguar game on the road, and talk about the roster as we head into the bye week. And with that, you guys know the drill. Bolts fans, who's got it better than us? Nobody. Bolt up, and we'll see you next week on ChargersCast. Hi, I'm Kirk Brewer, the creator and host of ChargersCast. I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of ChargersCast. We really appreciate you engaging with the podcast. When I created ChargersCast, it was intended to be a podcast about everything Los Angeles Chargers from a fan perspective. It's by fans and for fans. So it's for you, and we really appreciate you being here. If you haven't done so already, please go down below, leave a comment, give us some feedback. We really love to hear from you. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and click the little bell so that you get notifications when new content drops. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to ChargersCast. And who's got it better than us? Nobody.